Yeah, well, a different set of desires. It's still, like you said, the doing now flows from our being, and joy always overflows. It's the very nature of God. It's the very nature of joy to overflow and to want to spill onto other people. And so I really wanted to try to make a difference, to help people who were struggling, who were unhappy, which, like I said, seemed like a large majority of the
Hmm.
people. But of course, my eyes were immediately drawn to those who we would say are candidates for counseling, struggling with depression, anxiety, mental illness.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
just that 25% of the population, which just goes through horrific, I think mental torment on a pretty ongoing basis. And so I decided to go back to school and got my master's in counseling. I kind of had a two-pronged approach. And the other thing I did is I really poured myself into teaching discipleship groups, Bible studies, different things like that, because
Mm.
we know only the truth will set us free. But interestingly enough, as I still go to church now, different congregation, and look out, the vast majority of the people restless, unhappy. And it seemed like no matter what I would try to tweak or do differently or bring to the table, and this is my all consuming passion to try to make a difference, it didn't seem to move the needle much in the church.
You've had this shift with the Lord, and it's about you and Him and His love for you and that relationship. Now you're
Yeah.
doing other things, serving, ministering to people in states of brokenness as a counselor, Bible study, etc. But although the doing still looks similar, it's about
Uh-huh.
helping others. It's out of a different center, a different internal state for you, and the frustration now becomes about it doesn't seem to be helping other people. Is that am I tracking or no?
Yes, yes. No, absolutely. Helping as much as I wish. Of
It's not
course it
helping as much
helps.
as you wished. Okay.
Yeah. So I was doing what I wanted to do, but it didn't seem to be affecting this group that I had such a heart for, this group that was like me in so many different ways. I think I probably would have just continued and just done the best I could with what I was doing. But then, God's so faithful when he wants to make a change in your life too. If you don't get the memo, kind of hit you over the head with a spiritual 2x4 or something like that. And sometimes, for reasons of his own, it seems like that's how God is playing hide and seek. Not that here I am, come find me, but that I want to intensify your love for me, your awareness of me. And so for a while, I'm not going to seem as present as I have in the past. And so I entered this season where of migraines, we'll call them migraines. I had migraines from early adulthood, probably once, twice a month. Chris, you suffer from migraines. I know a lot of people do. It's no light. It's got to be completely dark in the room. The birds chirping outside are like jackhammers going through
Yes,
your
right.
head. You're nauseous and throwing up, and all of this is going on at the same time. And it's incredibly, incredibly painful. And so 2 or 3 days a month is one thing, but it seemed like I got a migraine that just never went away for years and years. And so, of course, it's in bed the majority of the time. There's just nothing to do but be in pain when you have that kind of pain. And about the only word that I would just utter all day long, every day was Jesus, Jesus. And it was this like pleading, begging, desperate cry. Like, I know that you are all powerful and you could take this pain away in a nanosecond.
Mm-hmm.
I know that you love me enough to die for me. Why won't you come just for a minute? Just for 5 minutes? Will you just come and relieve the pain? And it just drives you deep into God and into faith and into understanding. Nothing would change it. And so I remember one night that I just had to get out of the house. I just had to and be amongst people. And they were having some sort of service at our church. I have no idea what it was. And so we were there, and for some reason we broke up kind of into small groups of 4 to 6 people to pray together. And so it was Ron and I and another couple and the pastor and his wife. And so we're sitting in a circle and we're praying, and I started crying. And I remember the pastor, felt a little awkward, but figured, poor thing, she's probably miserable and in pain. And I was, so he's trying to say all these nice, comforting things. And I didn't realize that this was true until I heard it come out of my mouth. But I said, no, really, it's fine. You don't understand. I'm just so happy. And I was. And I realized for the next year or so, however long it was, I would lay in bed and all I could do was just say the name of Jesus again and again. But it was so different. It was awe that he would love me, that he would care about me and be with me and comfort me. And it was good.
The pain was not lifted.
Oh, no.
But your state with it before the Father changed. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. It's that intensifying and the distilling of what's really important in life. And he's there in that pain. I mean, it's not fun. But that fountain of living waters resides within us, and he promises that it will bubble up in us. And so the ability to be joy-filled, maybe not happy, but be joy-filled for every moment, to be Christ-saturated, that invitation is there. It's always there.
I know, Kim, that you still to this day suffer with migraines, perhaps not with the frequency you're describing here, but that's still a pretty regular part of your life, right?
Oh, yeah. And I just don't know how to say this. People pray for me all the time that my migraines will be gone, and I appreciate that. Thousands of millions of people across the world will also say the same thing. Suffering is a gift. It's an opportunity to remember where we draw life from. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a fun thing. We would never seek it out. I'll be the first one to pray not to be in pain. But it's also a gift, and God is so good. And he's so much bigger than it doesn't matter how loud pain screams. God is bigger. Because it's what led to the coaching, me coming into coaching. So towards the end of this period of migraines, where they were just constant and chronic, the insurance company finally relented and decided they were tired of paying all this money for me to get all these expensive drugs that weren't working and all that. And so they decided they were going to send me to a headache clinic, pain clinic, kind of inpatient, to see, what kind of treatment I could get for these migraines. Okay, so I go and, of course, immediately, get very sick with a migraine because they took me off the medicine I was on. So I'm instantly sick with a migraine, and they come in with their little IV and they stick it in my arm, and whoa, right? 10 minutes into it, I'm like, I'm done throwing up. I feel good. I could go out. No headache, no sound, no light sensitivity. I mean, it was crazy good.
Wow.
One of the doctor comes in, and they were still going through my records. They had run, of course, all these tests when I first got there. And one of them was an EKG. And she comes into the room almost holding the papers, almost her hands almost shaking, with one of those kind of stop the presses kind of thing.
Uh-oh.
Stop the medicine. Take her off the medicine. And I'm like, no, don't take me off the medicine. And she said, why didn't you tell me? And I said, tell you what? That you'd had these heart attacks. You can't be on this kind of medicine. And another one of those light bulb moments. I'm like, oh, is that what that was? And over the past few months, 2 different times, I can look back now and think, I had a heart attack.
Whoa.
And I didn't know what it was. And I probably should have died. If not the first time, the second time.
Whoa.
And with that all happening there at the headache clinic, and then they took me almost off all medicine families,
Well,
you know,
sure.
and that's
Yeah.
really not realistic way for me to try to prevent or treat migraines anymore. Just came this realization of the fragility of life.
Yeah.
It's, it's one thing to be in pain and be in your 30s or 40s and think, but, I'll manage. I'm coping, and thinking you'll go through your whole life that way. But it's another to realize I should have died.
Yeah.
It's a miracle that I'm here. It's just a miracle. And so you take all of those things together, and I came out of the headache clinic managing them much, much better, and they're much less frequent. But shortly after that, I heard about life coaching. And I think what that added to my strong desire for myself and for other people to live lives that are full of joy, saturated with Christ in every single moment of the day, is that desire to be purpose-driven. We can't be reactive. Life is way too short. We have to know why we're here, what God has put us on this earth uniquely to do. And we need to be pursuing that with all our heart, soul, and mind, with whatever days that we have left. And I heard my daughter actually said something about, maybe I'll become a life coach. She was talking about herself. And I had no idea what that was, but those two words, something resonated deep in my being. Mm-hmm. A coach for life. Maybe that's what the church needs. Maybe this tool would bring some of the things I've been yearning for the church to have and didn't know how to help them find it. And so all of that kind of ushered in a transition to a new and better season of life for me.
This was rich and good, and so in the end, whether it was all cheerful or not, far less important than just thank you again for sharing so vulnerably, so transparently. I'm always aware that our listeners can't see the screen as I can here. I'm in Missouri, you're in Florida, but we're on Skype, and a lot of tears shed during that story. Mm-hmm. And our tears say things from the depths of our beings that no words can begin to articulate.